everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome or welcome back to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I'm going to be doing my mid-month wrap-up for May. I've been really lucky so far this month and I've read some amazing books. I already have like a few 6 stars, so it's pretty amazing. I promise I'm not just handing out 6 stars, but these books really hit me. A lot of the success also came from the Mafia Romance Readathon. I had a great time participating in that. I would definitely recommend trying that next year because it really opens you up to Mafia and you find other recs and it's really fun. So I'm just gonna dive right in. Honestly, I just filmed this whole video and my camera shut off in the middle of it, didn't know, and so I'm redoing it. So I do apologize. I might rush through these because my voice is already kind of tired, but frustrating, but let's do this. Okay, so I'm just gonna dive right in. The first book that I read for the month was in preparation for an arc. I was getting an arc for J. Wolf's new series that is tied to the Savage U series, and I still had to read the last book, which was Real Like Daydreams. This is book number 4, and this is Julians Romance. Julian was introduced in a couple of the books previously, and I loved his character, so I was really anticipating his book, and it didn't disappoint. I loved this book. Julian was always like this vibrant, peppy, confident guy. Like, he was so amazing in the second book, which was Amir's, and he was just such a beautiful person. Unfortunately, in that book, somebody tried to run down Amir and he jumps in the way and he gets hit by this vehicle and almost dies. He can't really walk. He goes through a lot of PT to be able to try and walk again, and he's severely scarred. He's like badly scarred on his face. So that really changed him as a person, and his relationship with Amir has really suffered because Amir feels so guilty, and they were like brothers, and basically Julian doesn't even want to really be around him anymore, so that's really hard on Amir. So a lot going on with Julian, with him trying to go to PT, trying to walk again. He's walking now, but he has to use a cane, and he's still in a lot of pain. He is actually the son of one of the richest guys there. He was a savage, but he goes by Umbra because his mom was kind of like an affair kind of thing. So he doesn't really feel like he's actually that guy's son. He's never really done much for him. But so he's almost going to be out of his insurance isn't really going to cover his physical therapy anymore, so he's pretty stressing out on that. And so in this book, it's his relationship with Sarah, which Serafina, and she actually is this bubbly, beautiful person. She did have a lot of depression, and there is a content warning for self-harm because when she was younger, she did cut herself. You know, she has a really effed up family that doesn't support her or be loving to her, honestly, and made her feel kind of a lot of doubt, especially her sister. So there's a lot of deeper issues in these books. Him with his, disability rep and going through depression. I mean, there's previous talks of thoughts of suicide and all that. So it does have a lot of content warning, just be aware. But I thought it was so moving watching Julian grow and Sarah grow in this book. So they actually met at a party, but she didn't really see him that good. She was at a party. She had a boyfriend at the time, but he didn't even want her there. He's a total asshole. And so she goes out and sits on the couch outside with this guy. It's pretty dark, so she doesn't see him. They kind of smoke weed together and hang out, and he ends up getting her number. And they start texting and kind of being a friendship, but not knowing who each other are, not knowing their names and stuff. So she never knows who he really is, but he ends up being a big support for her. And then obviously we know this is Julian, and that was before he got in his accident and stuff. And so he wanted to reach out to her and pursue her, but after the accident, he didn't do it. And so he still wanted to engage with her, and he ends up being kind of a support system through her breakup because she caught her, her boyfriend cheated on her with his best girlfriend. That's a total bitch. She's also, Sarah was on the drumming like she's on the drumming band line or whatever, and wants to be the captain in that the next year. And so she's been kind of having this relationship with Julian, and now they have a class together, and she's kind of noticed him. He pisses off like the current drumming captain, and so that guy wants Sarah to like date him and make him fall for her and then break up with him. So this honestly had a couple of things that I usually don't like, which is like secret identity and like the bet, like to hook up with somebody and break their heart. But honestly, J. Wolf did it in such a good way where she was letting her friend know through text what she was doing, and obviously that's Julian, so he knew right off that she was like what she was doing, but he kind of talks her into telling him the truth, and so she does, and then they decide to do fake dating, so that they're like hanging out, and she's going to help him with his physical therapy because that's what she's going to school for since he doesn't have the money for it. And then their relationship just grows, and I just loved it. I love seeing Julian break down his walls and open up to somebody. It was really beautiful. Obviously, the third act breakup kind of thing, you kind of saw coming, obviously, due to the secret identity. And it was kind of annoying, but, you know, it didn't bug me too much. I thought it was needed, the reveal and all that kind of stuff. So, and it was great because you get to see all the characters, because this is the last book in the Savage You series. So I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving this 6 stars, and I just think it's because I love Julian. I love his character and everything that he goes through, and so I absolutely love this book. The next book that I read, oh, did I say I gave that 6 stars? I think I did. I'm all scatterbrained now. So the next book I read was The Beast by Katee Robert, and I did not like this. Honestly, I don't think this series is for me. I accidentally went into this one thinking it was the second book, but it's the 4th book in the series, and I didn't really enjoy it. I think I'm going to give up on this series. I like some Katee Robert, but this is just all smut with like no plot, no character development. I just don't really like it that much. This is between Beast, Isabel, and Gaetan. Not Gaston, but it's Gaetan in here. And it's an MMF. She dated both of them like kind of around the same time. Obviously things didn't work because they wanted her to choose one of them and she couldn't choose. And so now her father's died and she has to go and get them because they're like part of like kind of like her military protectant of that territory, and get them back. And they said they'll come back with her, but she needs to choose between them, so they're gonna like give her 2 weeks or something to like, and they basically share her. So, and they kind of like hated each other, but really they had less for each other, the 2 guys, and so they realized they're all better together and blah blah blah. It was so boring. Honestly, it was sex scene after sex scene after sex scene. There was nothing else going on, and the sex scenes are pretty intense because they're sharing her, there's 2 dicks, there's getting her prepared, there's constant, like, it's a lot, and there's BDSM stuff, and so it's like you literally go from one chapter, it's all sex one chapter, get a page into the chapter, and they're having sex again. So I didn't like it. I gave it 3 stars, and I think that's being generous, but I need, if I'm bored during a sex scene, I mean, come on. And I listened to an audiobook too, and I thought it took forever. So I think I'm gonna give up on that series. So then I went into the Mafia Romance Readathon, and the first book that I read was The Spy. Unfortunately, I can't really say anything about this because it is a culmination of, you know, stuff that happened in the Brutal Birthright series, Kingmakers, and even like the other series that I don't want to bring up. But so this is, you can't really say anything because I don't want to ruin anything for you. I really want you to read this series. I love Sophie Lark. I'm a big Sophie Lark fan. I want to buy all her books. And this was just amazing. The Spy is actually kind of a hidden identity. Somebody there is like the spy, and you didn't know who it was going to be. I guessed who it was, but I think most people do. I don't think it's too hidden, but she leaves all these clues in through the other books on who it could be. And then it's also this female that is a newcomer. She's new to the school, and so it's not a female that we've previously read, but I loved her character, and she could have ties to the family that he's plotting against. He's their hidden identity to get revenge. And it was really, really good. The first chapter, like right off the bat, it picks up with like action and like what happened to his family. And also there's a third POV of somebody I didn't expect, and it got me kind of emotional. And finding out who his father was really amazing. So it just tied everything together. I thought it was a perfect conclusion to the series. There is another book, The Savage, but I feel like that's kind of like an add-on because people wanted more. I didn't hear amazing things about it, but I'll probably still pick it up because it is Sophie Lark. But I ended up giving this 6 stars because I just think it was so impressive what she did to lead up to this book. And then there was a lot more going on, action, side characters, mafia politics. It just made the world so much broader, and I just think she was genius on how she built up to this book. Okay, and the next book that I read was Cruel Enforcer by Maggie Cole. This is book number 3 in the Mafia Wars. This is between Sergei and Cora. I really love this. It was a biracial romance. Cora is this badass, strong, independent, intelligent black woman. She's a lawyer, and she's just so awesome. Like, I loved her character. She's very alpha, but she feels like men in her previous relationships weren't able to handle what alpha she is and how strong she is. So she would kind of have to downplay that. But Sergei loves that about her. I just love this. So Sergei is one of the Ivanov brothers. He's one of the youngest ones. He has a lot of trauma in his past because he was actually one of the people, he was like tortured and kind of branded and all this stuff when he was very young. I think he was like 14, 15 when that happened. So he has a lot of like anger and revenge against that family. So that all goes into the Mafia Wars. This book, you're going to go back in time to like the first book. And I like that how she does that in this series, where it's like new stuff from like the older events from this couple's perspective. And Sergei meets Cora because sorry, my cat's gonna try and scratch this cat pole right next to me right now. Okay, so anyways, she meets Sergei because things happen in the first book where they need to rush to help get the heroine and her friends out of trouble because they're at a club with these Russian enemies of theirs. And so that's how he meets Cora, and she's instantly attracted to him, and he's, ow, Tootsie. Sorry, my cat keeps attacking down by my feet. And he is very attracted to her. He kind of just ended this relationship. He's very into BDSM, and he had this model girlfriend that really wasn't even a girlfriend fully. She just used him for his BDSM and sex and stuff. So he finally cuts things off with her, instant connection with Cora, and they decided to kind of start hooking up. I love the side story and the side character of her as a lawyer. She's like working pro bono to help this poor woman who was like an immigrant kind of from another country, and she was a severely abusive man, and she's trying to get out of that marriage. And so she's working on this case right now and also trying to hide her from the husband. So Sergei actually steps in and offers up one of their suites for her to like live in while she's in hiding. And so I really, really liked that side story. There was a lot going on with the Mafia Wars and side characters, and I loved their romance. She was very into the BDSM because she needed an alpha in the sheets to like kind of take control of her. But he was very supportive of her as an intelligent woman, and I just loved that. So I gave this 5 stars. Then I read the book that I hated from the Readathon, and that is Twisted Hearts by Cora Reily. So I've had this on my TBR forever. I didn't want to read it because I read such bad reviews, and I didn't like Savio's character from the previous books. And just reading the blurb, he sounds like a freaking douchebag. So I put it off. But I love the Kimura Chronicles, and so I was like, I need to read this. So I thought the Mafia Readathon was a perfect time to like force myself to finally read it. So I did, and I hated it, and it was horrible. Savio is a pig. He's a douchebag. He's a man whore, not in a cute way where he's reforming. No. He's screwing other chicks for like 70 to 80% of this book. Like, honestly, almost to the end, he's not committed. He doesn't really care about her. Gemma's his best friend's, like, little sister, and she's had a crush on him forever. She's got, like, stars in her eyes for this complete douchebag that I don't get it. Like, he's a scumbag. He has a bull tattoo over his dick. I mean, need I say more? Like, he's just disgusting. And he, okay. So she's like 16 when he finally notices her and thinks she's hot and objectifies her and wants to hit that. But her family is a very like old school traditional family. They don't want her to kiss a boy or anything till she's married. And she believes in that. So like, there's no way that he's going to get that. So I think my cat just hit my tripod. So, okay. Sorry about that. My cat was, knocking around my camera, my tripod and everything, so I had to put him outside. Okay, so back to Savio and his disgustingness. He doesn't want anything to do with her, really. He just wants to have sex with her, but she won't until she's married. And her parents are trying to do an arranged marriage for her, and she keeps hinting to Savio like they're going to find somebody, like, because she wants him to offer for her, and he could care less. He's not going to do it. And so she keeps hinting, but then a guy finally does, and then now that somebody else wants her, he wants her down. So now he wants to be engaged to her, but put it off for a few years so he can screw around with other chicks. Since she's only, 16, obviously he has to wait. And so it's just disgusting. Like, he'll screw other girls and bring it up in front of her. He like jokes about it to her brother. He's just disgusting. And Gemma just continues to take it and take it and take it. She's got no backbone. I would want nothing to do with this pig. And has no redeeming qualities. Even freaking Ramo is looking at him like, you're an asshole. Why are you doing this? You better be honorable and do what you're supposed to do with this marriage. And that's Ramo. And part of it too is you go from Nino Falcone, who is one of the best heroes I've ever read. He's one of my top book boyfriends, to Savio. And he's freaking disgusting. So I hated it. I gave it 2 stars, and that was me being nice, because I do love the Kimura Chronicles and I feel really bad, but I don't know what happened to the series that it went from Nino to Savio. It was horrible. So, honestly, I already ranted too long about it, but you can hear more of my thoughts. I will link down below. I did do a vlog for the Mafia Romance Readathon, so if you want more thoughts on these books, you can definitely check that out. Because the next book I am going to talk about, I really got emotional for it, and you'll see me like tear up at the end of that clip, and it was just crazy because I don't cry in books. But for some reason, this book hit me. I can't go into details on why it made me emotional because it'll give things away, but I do in the vlog. So if you want to know, you can check that out. But that is for Kosa Nostra. So I loved it so much that I went out and bought the duet right away. And that is, the first book was Our Thing, which I had already read before the readathon. And Kosa Nostra is the second part of the book. So I went ahead and bought this duet because I was so floored with how emotional I got over this book. I wouldn't have expected. I cried multiple times while reading this. I don't know what it is, but it totally got to me. This picks up right after the first book. This is a romance between a ballerina and a mafia man. His family's in the mafia. They're the Butcher brothers, and his name is Max. And let me just tell you, Max Butcher is like, he's it. He's protective, he's possessive, he's badass. He'll do anything for Katee. He loves her so much. At the end of the first book, they're still together, so it's a happy for now. It's not like a cliffhanger really, but something happens where she's attacked, almost raped. And so she, at the beginning of this book, is dealing with that trauma, and Max is trying to be supportive and help her through it, but also feels so guilty for what happened to her, and he's angry. It's great to get his POV in this book because you can finally get to see what's going on with Max. And they do not break up. There's no third act breakup, but there is a third act kind of conflict that happens that kind of separates them, and it made me so emotional. I cried. I cried at the end of this book. Max is a guy that's like, this is a Grump Sunshine. He's a guy that doesn't tell you he loves you. He shows you, and his actions and everything. He was all in with Cassidy, and he was willing. He went from not wanting a girlfriend and not caring to being so devoted to her. He's just so, I love him so much, and he's still a freaking badass too. He literally like beheads a guy in this book. So there's some darkness, there's some mafia. I really love this. Nicci Harris is like a new author for me. I can't wait to continue with the rest of the series because this completely blew me away. But for more thoughts, I did give this one 6 stars. But so, because it just, I mean, if it made me cry multiple times, you're going to get a 6 star from me. I just loved their romance. So I would definitely check out this duet. It was amazing. And the side characters are great. I can't wait to read the other Butcher Brothers. So look into that. And then if you want more thoughts on why I cried so much, you can check out my vlog. Then I read an arc. It's Pretend You're Mine by Lucy Score. This is actually like an older book, but they're re-releasing it with like a new cover and everything. So I got the arc. I have never read Lucy Score, but I've seen people either like love her or hate her. So I wanted to give her a try. This didn't really work for me. This is a fake dating, small town. He's in the military kind of thing. And on paper, it sounded really good. It just didn't work for me. This is between Luke and Harper. Harper's this oddball kind of heroine that's like all over the place. The beginning, it just didn't seem very realistic. She literally catches her boyfriend cheating on her and leaves without her wallet, her phone, anything, and decides to travel hours to go stay with her friend without any of that stuff, then gets lost, and then she doesn't have money to get gas or anything. She doesn't have anything. So she shows up to this bar, and this guy is like beating on his woman in the parking lot, and she jumps in there to defend her, but like literally jumps in there fighting this guy, and this guy's big and he knocks her out. I mean, I don't know many women that would put themselves in that kind of situation. You would go get help or something. So it just seemed a little unrealistic, but you know, this is the kind of character we're talking about. I did like her. She had a lot of good qualities, but she was just a little too quirky to me. And then Harper, I'm sorry, that's Harper. Luke ends up seeing that, helps her out. He lets her stay at his place for the night since she has nowhere to go, and then like gives her a ride back to her place the next day. And then he ends up deciding, you know, you can work for me. And he had a job opening up, and he's actually going to be going back, I think, to Afghanistan. I can't remember. In like 30 days. So he's like, you can stay here for 30 days or whatever. They end up hitting it off, and they do a fake dating thing because he doesn't want his family constantly trying to hook him up with women all the time. He doesn't want to be in a relationship. He was married before, which he never tells this heroine that he was married before and that she died, and why he has all these issues. She has to find out while he's gone, like overseas, and when he's stationed. And they were going to end it at like once he left, but he asked her to stay. So then it starts this long distance relationship, and it really drew that out for a long time. It was kind of like they weren't even together for most of this book. But I did think this was more of a story about Harper finding a new family, because she grew up in like foster care, was abused, and did not have a good childhood. And to be basically accepted in with open arms with his friends, his family, and she really builds these relationships with them. So I really liked that part of the book. I just don't think it was that great of a romance. So they basically, like, once he gets back, you know, things escalate between them. And then also there's a third act breakup, and he honestly was unnecessarily cruel to her, and pushed her away and was mean, and he did not have to grovel enough, in my opinion. She forgave him the second he basically decided to try and get forgiveness. And I don't know, it didn't really work for me. I gave it 3 stars, which I feel kind of bad for an arc doing that, but I had to be honest. Like, I probably wouldn't have ever read this book to begin with, but you know, it was okay. I'll see if I'll read another Lucy Score. I'm not sure. Let me know if you like any other Lucy Score books that I might like better than this one, but I don't know. So then I wanted something, a palette cleanser that I know I'll love. So I went back to the Ice Planet Barbarians and I read Barbarians Hope, which is book number 10. This is a romance between Himilo and Asha. And these are actually, I liked it because it wasn't one of the human women, so it was a little different. And it's between two Sakui. And we met Asha in previous books and she was very cut off from the rest of the tribe and very like depressed. And so she, like you get to kind of find out her backstory, and her and Himilo were together. They were, they had a baby together, but the baby died very like fast, like after the birth. And so they both dealt with the grief differently and ended up splitting up. And so, you know, now she's cut off, depressed. She doesn't really participate with the tribe. She doesn't really have any friends. And this other human woman is doing these holiday events and she needs help planning it. And so she reaches out to Asha and asks for her help. So this is really great because it builds a friendship. Asha feels needed again. She kind of draws her out of her shell. And then she starts to slowly communicate with Himilo, and they have their own little adventure and really open back up and communicate and you know, decide to give it a second chance. And I thought it was really beautiful. The epilogue was really sweet. So I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars. Then I read the arc for J. Wolf. And this was Save One Thing. And this is a new series she's doing. It is the Savage Academy, I believe. And this is between Beckett and Luciana. Beckett you meet in the last book of The Savage You, which I read. That was the first book I read of the month. And he's Julian's half-brother. So Julian's rich dad is a savage, and he has a son. And so this is his half-brother. And Beckett is basically kind of, you know, he kind of comes off grumpy, standoffish, but he's from a rich home, but he's like very like unloved and like kind of doesn't really have a great home life. He's going to Savage Academy, and so is Luciana. So Luciana is Hell's sister. She was the first book in the Savage You series, and they came from a different environment completely, where they grew up in like a trailer park, and she has a severely like drug addict mom, and so they come from 2 different worlds. But they met when they were 13 because Julian and Hell's they're all friends, so they met. And Luciana thought he hated her because he was really rude and said like rude things to her. But actually he was like all in on her and crushing on her, but he didn't know how to talk to her. So he said rude things that took a different way than what he meant. So they end up going to Savage Academy together, but they don't really interact. And it's not until like the senior year, that's now, is that they start to interact, and he's kind of making his move and making his interest known. Luciana doesn't want boyfriends. She doesn't date. She's so focused on field hockey, and she wants a scholarship to a college. So she's very passionate about that. But once, you know, Beckett starts zeroing in on her, she starts to get a crush and start to realize how much he's done for her. Things are revealed on how long this guy has been pining for her and doing for her. And basically, it's just, he's so swoon-worthy. He's sweet. I loved Beckett. He's very loving and all in on her, and it was just very cute. And he's very possessive and protective. And it was a really cute, sweet romance. There's a 3rd act kind of conflict breakup, but it wasn't too bad because they are young and all that. So I didn't hate on it too much. But I gave it 5 stars because I really enjoyed it and I loved Beckett. So then I got some K. Webster novellas. Like she had this little promo going on, and so I grabbed those up. So I just decided to read a couple of those this month. So I read White Rabbit, and this is between Land and Hope. This is a bully romance in high school. Land is from this rich, kind of almost evil, sinister family, and Hope is this albino, really beautiful, sweet daughter of, I think, the sheriff. And she decides to go to their Halloween party and find out what's going on there, because people like end up dead every year, and it's just very murky on like what's going on. She's trying to get evidence against them, but she ends up getting there and having a run with Land, and then obviously sexual stuff ensues, and he's been bullying her to push her away because he does know his darkness and didn't want her to be a part of it. Honestly, like, I was very interested in this, but it felt very vague. I think there might be other novellas tied to it, like where you already read those, because I wanted to know more about the family. I think this would have been good if it was like a full, like, fleshed out novel, not a novella. So I gave it 4 stars because I really found it interesting, but I just wish it was a full book. But it was fun for a quick read. And then I finally read The Right Move by Liz Tomforde, and this is the 2nd book. I loved Mile High, but this one blew it out of the water. This is a 6-star read. I absolutely loved it. It's a 6-star read because Ryan Shea is everything. Like, he is top book boyfriend material. He's so swoon worthy. I wish he was real and that we really had a Ryan Shea. So he is the brother, a twin brother of the heroine from Mile High, and he's a pro NBA basketball player. And he is kind of like shut off his, like, he doesn't trust people. He kind of pushes people away. He's like holds himself at a distance because of something that happened to him, you know, when he was in college and stuff, and he was betrayed. And so he kind of is standoffish with his team, and he's the team captain now, but like, he needs to be a better leader. And you have Indy, who was actually the heroine's best friend from the first book, and she was in a relationship for a really long time and caught her boyfriend cheating on her, so that ended. And so she was in a really bad place, and she went home for a while with her parents, but now she's back and she needs a place to stay. And so Ryan's sister talks him into letting her live with him. He does not want to do it, but he does it because he'll do anything for his twin. And so she comes in and she brings chaos, color, like just everything, and like beautiful energy into his life. And he struggles with it, but they end up doing a fake dating thing because his general manager wants him to be a better leader, and he thinks that's like settling down, having a wife. The previous captain had like a good relation. He's married and he has a family, and his wife was friends with the GM's wife. So he decides to pretend like Indy's his girlfriend and start that going on so he can kind of show himself to be a better leader. And then Indy has a wedding that she has to go to. All her friends are still really close friends with her ex-boyfriend that cheated on her, and she doesn't want to go to the wedding alone. And they're still trying to push them back together. So they start a fake dating thing. It's forced proximity. You got sharing one bed at one point. They're going to events together, and it's just beautiful because Ryan does these acts of love. Like, he shows, it's like all these little things that he does that shows he cares about her and loves her throughout the book. Like, she loved iced coffee, and every time he would make coffee in the morning, he would make her some and put it in the fridge so it would be cold by the time she got up and she could have her iced coffee. He would like make her breakfast. He was just so thoughtful, and he bought her like this bookcase for all her smutty like romance novels. And I just loved him. He was so sweet. And he saw who Indy was, because Indy felt like in her past relationship, she had to stamp down how smart she was. She's very smart. And she kind of had to make herself little for her boyfriend. And Ryan supports her and wants her to like do things for herself. She also is like this caregiver and wants to just help other people and puts other people's needs first. So he forces her to start doing things for herself. I mean, Ryan Shea is just perfect. And so you have this fake dating, then they start to fully get involved and say, this isn't fake. So it was just beautiful. You're going to have a third act conflict in there, but it's a completely understandable third act conflict because of what happened to Ryan in his past, and like how Indy wants a future that might conflict with what he wants. So it was definitely understandable, and Ryan puts out all the stops to get her back, and it was just great. So this was a 6-star read. I'm really excited for her to do the next book, which it's going to be this pro baseball player, and he's a single dad. So I'm excited for that. Liz Tomforde is a new author for me, so I'm really impressed with her. I've absolutely loved these 2 books, and I mean, this is very amped. Like, this book has a lot of amp behind it. People love this book, so I was worried, but Ryan Shea He is it. So I definitely get it. So then I read Truth or Beard, which is the first book in the Winston Brothers series. I've never read Penny Reid, and I've heard a lot about this series, so I thought I would read it. I listened to it on Anyplay, and I thought it was a really cute, sweet read. It didn't blow me away or anything, but I'm not really the contemporary rom-com girl, but I did really like it. I thought it kicked off with a really funny start where she, Jessica, she went away for school. Now she's back to be like a teacher and back to her hometown, but she does have wanderlust, so she wants to just stay there for a couple years and then travel. So that's like her goal. And then she happens to see, she's at this Halloween thing, she's dressed as a sexy Gandalf, which I thought was funny, and she sees her like childhood huge crush that she had, but he's a twin, and she's thinking it's the twin she had a crush on, but it's actually Dwayne. So Dwayne and her always clashed heads. She thought he kind of hated her. They were kind of a contentious relationship, but he was actually super into her and was in love with her, and pined for her and everything. So she thinks it's the other twin, and he kind of takes advantage of that opportunity, takes her down the hall to like a secluded area, and they full on make out and are like almost disrobing and stuff. And so it gets pretty hot pretty fast. And then she finds out it's Dwayne, and she can't believe it. But she can't stop thinking about him. She realized that crush is like nothing, and Dwayne is it. And so they decide to start dating. But since she's leaving in a few years, like a couple years, he's all in. He wants long term and them to be like end game. So he doesn't know if he wants to do that, to set himself up for like heartbreak. So they end up coming to agreement to like date for like the 13 months. And then obviously, you know, things aren't going to work out that way. There was cool side characters in this. There was like an MC kind of gang going on that were blackmailing the Winston brothers. So there was a lot of interesting things going on. So I could see how this would be a really good series. But it was a really cute romance, and I gave it 4 stars. And then the last book I read, I just read a little novella, another one of Kate Webster's. This wasn't really anything to talk about, honestly. It's called Time Served by Kate Webster. And it's just like a cop with like his best friend's little sister. She finally turns legal. He arrests her and then takes her to the jail. And then he takes her and has sex with her. So there's not really much to say. I gave it 3 stars because it is what it is. So it wasn't that amazing or anything. But so those are the books that I've read so far for May. So I'm really excited to continue. Again, we're going to be reading the Resisting Mr. Granville for our buddy read along. The live show is going to be on my channel on the 21st. So I hope you guys join us. I have info on it in my Instagram, and then also on my community page here. But thank you so much for watching this. Again, please remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.